remember the whole Earth catalog. I heard the laugh because many of us remember it quite well. And he was a Buddhist, Steve Jobs. He was also a vegan. And just the very fact that he read Whole Earth Catalog and was a Buddhist says to me, I can just give you some of his early reading list. There's no way he didn't read Be Here Now by Ram Dass. No way he didn't read and probably listen to the tapes of Alan Watts. So many of us remember the gestalt of that time. It's almost mythic, the story of Steve Jobs. He was born to one couple and then was adopted by another. It almost reads like, and the prince, they put him in a little basket of reeds and the princess found him. There was no room in the manger. He had to begin from a suburban California garage. There are so many archetypal aspects to his story, and of course, we in America particularly don't let ourselves fully adore someone until they've died. And so even though we all acknowledged his genius, talked about the power of Apple, the genius of the technology, the money, the power that he had made, it wasn't until his death that we allowed ourselves to truly take in what had been in our midst, what had happened while we were on Earth at the same time. And his being a Buddhist, you know, on a human level, it's a sad story. The man was only 56, still theoretically could have had decades left of really going after it. I'll talk in a moment, though, about how I see his death in spiritual terms, particularly given the fact that he was a Buddhist. Like I said, though, we didn't allow ourselves to fully adore and appreciate. That's one of the values of death. He himself said in that same commencement address that death is part of the brilliance of nature. It's one of the great change agents. It's the ultimate change agent, he said. Not only a change in him from form to formlessness, but also a change in the way we view him. A willingness and an ability to adore him now in a way that we would not quite allow ourselves to adore him when he was here. Now, what was that genius of a person like Steve Jobs? You know, there are a lot of books about genius. You kind of wonder. You wonder about the genetics of it. Well, one couple gave birth to him, and then another couple raised him, and you can tell sort of half-cynical jokes like, boy, I bet those people that gave him up were sorry about it. But then on the other hand, you think about that, because what about the acculturation process of those who actually raised him, etc.? But I think that there was something more than any of those factors, although probably all of those factors were a piece. And that goes back to the Buddhism, and probably even more so to that which led him to want to be a Buddhist to begin with. And that is something that happened within his heart. That he had intellectual geniuses without question. That he had a talent and a genius that has to do with something that not only could none of us name, but none of us could possibly create. But there are geniuses in the world who do not do for the world what Steve Jobs did. There are geniuses on this planet, as a matter of fact, who have used their genius not only not for good and compassionate purposes, but for nefarious purposes. So the fact that he was a genius, the fact that he was talented, the fact that he had such technological ability in and of itself does not tell the story. Steve Jobs not only accomplished something technologically, what he accomplished technologically was that he grounded and placed, he brought down from the ethers and grounded in the technology of the world the yearning for connectedness, which is the essence of the human experience. He took that yearning that we have to connect with each other. He took that craving to be part of something bigger. He was a Merlin for the ages. He was performing a spiritual task. And like many Merlins and some of the great spiritual teachers, here's your gift. I move back now, you take it from here. See, because from a Buddhist perspective, Steve Jobs, as I said before, he didn't go anywhere. He just moved from form to formlessness. But then taking it into another aspect of the brilliant diamond, which is all the great religious spiritual teachings of the world. If you move from the Buddhist mind, the Buddha mind of infinite love and compassion for all living sentient beings, to the Christian perspective, the whole idea of the crucifixion and the resurrection, is that the crucifixion means the body can die, but the resurrection means that the spirit cannot. You know, when people die, they leave things in their will. I leave one person my furniture, one person my money, one person my jewelry, one person my books. But on a spiritual plane, something even grander occurs. I leave you, if you wish, the way I look at the world. I leave you, if you wish, my compassion for all beings. And so there is so much that he left us even beyond the technological genius. If Apple never produces one more item, if they never produce one more gadget, they have given us already enough that you and I have what we need for a lifetime to grow into the people that who we know we can be and kick ass on this planet in terms of turning this world around in time. And so, when we think of the money and the power, all of the outer issues that attend the great success of Apple and Steve Jobs, it's not like he had that money and he had that power and then he threw out some great gift to the world which allowed us all to connect in the ways that we now can, or to create for ourselves in the ways that we now can. Very clearly it worked the other way around. He, starting from a little garage in California with no money and no college degree, had something going on, whether he was already a Buddhist or it was that yearning that then turned into his Buddhist practice. He had a glimpse of what was possible, and his glimpse of what was possible was a glimpse of what was possible for all of us, not just Steve Jobs. What was possible for all of us. One of the things he said that I found one of the most brilliant about leadership, and it bothers me the most about political leadership in the world today. He said, it is not the consumer's job to know what they want. It's like in sex. If somebody asks you what you like, honey, then there's no way you could possibly deliver it. In politics, when they do focus groups to see what people want, no, leadership doesn't do a focus group to ask what people want. The leadership in the Tao Te Ching, it says, the leader is not seen by himself or herself as a leader. The leader in his or her heart is a follower of a distant star, that star of possibility, that star in the sky, that star of love at the center of all things, by whatever name we give it. And so Steve Jobs was following something. He wasn't following people, that's why we followed him. He was a leader. He was following something out there. He was following the possibility. He was following that light of possibility that is etched onto each of our hearts. And just like Steve said about technological leadership or leadership in business, it's not the consumer's job to know what it is they want next. In politics, it's the same thing. Lead already. Don't figure out what you think we want. Tell us what you think would be fabulous, and then show us how you can give it to us and let us decide. And so, when Steve Jobs, from that place within him, followed that star that he followed, and we know not only was he Buddhist, he was also vegan. That of itself, I mean, Hitler was a vegetarian, so that of itself doesn't mean you're lifted to the highest vibrations. But I think for the majority of people, who seek a diet, a higher frequency, it's all part of that mix. So when the world, as the world now filters information, tells the story of Steve Jobs, pick up any newspaper or any magazine, many aspects of his story will be discussed and are being discussed, all of which have validity and have value within a certain context. But then over on the side there, in what they call his personal life, there's this mention that he was a Buddhist, and there is this mention that he was vegan. But for those of us who see the world in a more holistic and multidimensional way, we know that's not just some little aspect of his personal life. You're talking about where he really lived inside himself. And what I submit for all of us to think about today is that that is the engine of your leadership. It's not just how you view the world, it's how you view your connection to the world, and most importantly, the way you could serve it. Now, there is, once again, in the Christian dispensation, this idea of a phrase called the gifts of the Holy Spirit. And that's this notion that